For decades, the name Seagal meant one thing: bone-crunching Hollywood action. It was a brand built on Aikido, broken wrists, and blockbuster films that defined an era. The name itself conjures images of a martial arts legend, an icon of impossible toughness. But the next chapter of that legacy isn't being written on a movie set. It's being forged inside a wrestling ring. You know the name. You know the legacy of destruction. But what you think you know about the Seagal legacy in wrestling is wrong. The story you heard about a failed tryout and a quiet disappearance, that's not the whole story. The internet loves a juicy story about a can't-miss prospect who fumbles right at the goal line. Wow. For a while, it looked like that was going to be the story of Arissa LeBrock, daughter of action god Steven Seagal and supermodel icon Kelly LeBrock. You heard the whispers. A botched WWE debut, a failed tryout, a quiet fade into obscurity. The hype around her famous name just sort of fizzled into a sad story of what could have been. But what if that whole narrative was just flat out wrong? What if the silence wasn't about failure, but about a brutal, career-threatening injury that almost killed her dream before it even got started? This is what really happened. This is the story of hitting rock bottom, a secret phone call from a wrestling legend that changed everything, and a comeback that has put the entire industry on notice. This is the story of a debut that was less of a performance and more of a correction. To understand where Arissa LeBrock is going, you first have to understand the colossal shadow she was born under. Her father is Steven Seagal, a name that for decades was a global brand. He wasn't just an actor, he was a cultural phenomenon, a seventh Dan black belt in Aikido who brought a new, chillingly realistic style of martial arts to the big screen. Her mother was Kelly LeBrock, an actress and model who was a cultural icon in her own right, the star of classics like Weird Science and The Woman in Red. Arissa was born into a world of flashbulbs, red carpets, and Hollywood royalty, the daughter of a genuine power couple. With that kind of family tree, you'd picture a life spent in front of paparazzi cameras. For a time, she embraced that world, but on her own terms. Before she ever thought about stepping into a wrestling ring, Arissa built a successful career as a plus-size model. She became a powerful voice for body positivity, landing major brand campaigns, and even sharing her story on the Lifetime reality series. Growing up supermodel, this was a huge deal. It proved she could handle public pressure, but more importantly, it showed she was serious about building her own identity, separate from the massive shadow cast by her parents. She was proud of her family, but she wasn't going to be defined by them. But while the modeling world saw her charisma, another passion was quietly building a fire that connected more to her father's world of combat. Arissa began seriously training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And let's be clear, this wasn't some celebrity hobby. She was a fierce and dedicated competitor, entering tournaments, winning medals, and documenting her journey. BJJ is a discipline that requires immense toughness, strategic thinking, and a comfort with physical confrontation. It was here on the mats that she built a foundation of legitimate combat skill. The raw athletic talent was impossible to deny. It was this unique blend of her mother's magnetic star power and her father's combat discipline that set the stage for a shocking career change. In December 2019, the wrestling world got the news. Arissa LeBrock, the model and BJJ practitioner, was set for a WWE tryout at their world-renowned performance center in Orlando, Florida, for any aspiring wrestler. This is the golden ticketan invitation to the state-of-the-art facility where the next generation of global superstars are forged. The tryout itself is a crucible, a grueling ordeal designed to push athletes to their absolute physical and psychological limits. The drills are notoriously brutal. Hours of punishing conditioning, endless in-ring exercises, and promo classes where you have to prove you can command a microphone. Arissa's presence immediately made her the most high-profile attendee. The story was irresistible. The action hero's daughter wants to be a WWE superstar. But within the insulated world of wrestling, the skepticism was real. Was she just another celebrity kid looking for a shortcut? Did she have the grit to endure the grind? She was ready to embrace that grind and prove every doubter wrong. She was on the very edge of a new beginning. And then it all came to a screeching halt. The dream was ripped away. Not because she didn't have the talent, but because her body failed her. In the time after the tryout, Arissa suffered a severe, career-threatening injury. This wasn't a minor sprain. It was a devastating blow that brought her wrestling ambitions to a sudden, brutal stop. Because she wasn't officially signed, WWE never made a public statement. As far as the world knew, she just vanished. That silence fueled a storm of internet rumors. People ran with wild speculation that she had a bad attitude, she couldn't handle the pressure, or that she had been secretly blacklisted. The myth was born. Arissa LeBrock got her one shot, blew it, and disappeared. The reality was so much more tragic. She wasn't banned. She was broken. The physical toll was immense, but the psychological damage was arguably worse. The injury forced her into a long, difficult recovery far from the spotlight. Arissa later admitted with incredible vulnerability that she had fallen into a deep, dark place. In her own words, she said, "I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life." For most people, that would have been the end of the story. Out of that darkness, a new path appeared. A phone call was made to a legend. A man who knows a thing or two about legacy and overcoming the shadow of a famous father, Dustin Rhodes. For those who don't know, Dustin Rhodes is wrestling royalty. He's the son of the legendary American Dream Dusty Rhodes, and a future Hall of Famer in his own right. He is perhaps best known as the bizarre and unforgettable Goldust, character so audacious and ahead of its time that it remains one of the most compelling creations in wrestling history. Now a veteran performer and respected coach with AEW, Dustin has earned universal reverence for his incredible longevity and brilliant wrestling mind. When Dustin reached out to Arissa, he saw past the injury, past the celebrity parents, and past the failed tryout. He saw an athlete with untapped potential and a story that was far from over. He offered her a second chance, an invitation to move to Texas and train at his school, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. For Arissa, that call was the lifeline she desperately needed. It was the jolt that shook her from what she called her comfortable darkness. She packed her bags and made the move. This wasn't about celebrity anymore. This was about paying her dues, far from the bright lights, in an old-school environment where respect is earned, not given. She was learning to become a complete professional wrestler, fusing her legit fighting skills with the art of sports entertainment. Dustin himself praised her work ethic, saying, "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her. Pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock." And if you're finding this story of resilience as incredible as we are, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories reshaping the world of wrestling. After months of relentless training, her moment of truth finally arrived. In March 2023, Arissa LeBrock competed in a student showcase for the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. This was her official in-ring debut. It wasn't on Raw or SmackDown. It wasn't in a giant arena under the glare of TV cameras. It was in an intimate Texas setting, in front of a small but passionate crowd, the kind of crowd that understands the blood, sweat, and tears it takes just to step through those ropes. This was real. This was earned. When she made her entrance, the transformation was undeniable. She wasn't a model or a celebrity's daughter. She was a survivor. She was a professional wrestler. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, a cold, focused intensity that was unnervingly similar to her father's on-screen persona. Her debut came in a tag team match, and from the moment the bell rang, it was clear this wasn't a gimmick. The match became a showcase for a style that was both shocking and compelling. The first thing that stood out was the raw power. Reports from the showcase described her as brutally efficient. Her strikes weren't for show. They landed with a thud that echoed through the venue. She moved her opponents around the ring with an intelligent brute force. Observers immediately saw the potential of a dominant new force in wrestling. But it was her BJJ background that came into play with devastating effect. When the match hit the mat, she was on another level. You could see her BJJ instincts take over as she controlled her opponent's posture and hunted for a finish. She wasn't just performing moves. She was applying a combat discipline, creating a real sense of danger. Reports from the showcase confirmed she won her debut match in dominant fashion. She didn't win with a flashy, choreographed sequence. She won by simply overpowering and outclassing her opponents, leaving no doubt who the superior force was. The crowd, which had been watching with curiosity, now buzzed with excitement. They had witnessed the birth of something new. This wasn't just a debut, it was a statement. She had beaten the injury, she had beaten the self down, and she had finally stepped out of her parents' massive shadows and into the squared circle on her own terms. The ripples from that small showcase in Texas spread quickly. The what-if story has become a what's next reality. While no official signing to a major promotion like WWE or AEW has been confirmed as of August 2025, that performance gives us a terrifying blueprint for what's to come. So let's have some fun and fantasy book what that inevitable division-shattering debut would look like. Imagine an AEW debut. The lights go out in a sold-out arena. No music, no pyro, just a heavy, suffocating silence. Then, a single, harsh spotlight slices through the darkness, landing on a figure at the top of the ramp. It's Arissa LeBrock. She marches to the ring and calls out a top-tier star, a former champion. The bell rings, and what follows is not a match, but an execution. She weathers her opponent's offense with a chilling calm before unleashing a flurry of strikes and seamlessly transitioning into a standing armbar. The grip is like a vice. The former champion is forced to the mat, her arm torqued back until she has no choice but to frantically tap out. In under 5 minutes, Arissa LeBrock would go from a rumored trainee to the most talked-about person in wrestling. Or picture a WWE debut. That would make history. The main event of Monday Night Raw, the reigning Women's World Champion stands tall, declaring there's no one left. The lights go out. When they come back up, Arissa is there. The champion, furious, shoves her. Arissa doesn't move an inch. The champion lunges, and in a flash of movement, Arissa uses her opponent's momentum against her, applying a subtle pressure to a nerve cluster. There's no big slam, no complex hold. The champion's body goes rigid, and she collapses to the mat, tapping frantically in submission. The referee, bewildered, calls for the bell. Arissa has defeated an unbeatable champion without throwing a single traditional wrestling move, establishing herself as the final boss of the women's division on night 1. Legacy is a complicated thing. It can be a gift, or it can be a cage. Arissa LeBrock was born with one of the most famous legacies in the world. Her real-life journey has already shown she has the heart of a true fighter. Overcoming a major injury and the crushing weight of doubt to forge her own path. The story of her debut, whispered out of a small hall in Texas, proves that she isn't in wrestling to be famous. She was already famous. She's in wrestling because she chose the hard road. She is actively redefining her family name and her own image, with her own grit. The injury that once seemed like a tragic ending was actually a necessary detour. It stripped her down and forced her to build a career the hard way, earning respect through skill and determination, not a name. She has proven that she isn't just carrying on a legacy. She's forging a new one in fire. The era of Arissa LeBrock has only just begun. So, the question is no longer if she belongs, but where she will ultimately make her mark. Will she return to WWE to finish the story that began at that fateful tryout, or will she join her mentor Dustin Rhodes in AEW? And who should be her first major rival on the world stage? Let us know your dream matchups down in the comments below.